Hello, I'm Sebastian. Welcome to 9 Trees podcast. Today, I will summarize and review the book. When Money Dies by Adam Fergusson is a narrative history of the Weimar Republic's hyperinflation, tracing how Germany's money lost meaning and how society changed when prices rose faster than ordinary life could adapt. Rather than treating inflation as an abstract economic variable, Fergusson follows the lived experience of households, savers, workers, businesses, and politicians as the currency collapses and confidence breaks. The book situates the disaster in the aftermath of World War I, with reparations pressures, political instability, and a state tempted to fund obligations through the printing press. It shows how accelerating devaluation distorts behavior, rewards speculation over productivity, and corrodes institutions that rely on trust and contracts. Fergusson also explores why well-educated people and established organizations struggle to respond effectively, and how normal citizens improvise to survive in a world of hourly price changes. The result is both a warning and a case study in how monetary breakdown becomes a social and political crisis. I will give you key takeaways from this book. Firstly, from post-war strain to the printing press trap, Fergusson frames Weimar hyperinflation as a process, not a single event, rooted in post-war realities that made honest budgeting politically painful. Germany faced heavy fiscal burdens, including domestic reconstruction needs and external obligations linked to reparations, while its political landscape was fractured and governments were short-lived. In that environment, deficit spending could seem like the least confrontational option, especially when taxes were unpopular and spending cuts threatened unrest. The book explains how repeated resort to monetary financing created a feedback loop. As more money chased the same goods, prices rose, which increased nominal budget requirements, which encouraged further issuance. Foreign exchange pressure amplified the cycle as a weakening currency raised the cost of imports and signaled growing risk to investors. Fergusson highlights how officials often justified continued expansion as temporary, expecting a stabilization that never arrived without a credible fiscal reset. The topic emphasizes that hyperinflation is ultimately a crisis of confidence in the state's ability or willingness to balance obligations with real resources. Once credibility erodes, expectations shift and the demand for money falls, accelerating the collapse. Secondly, daily life in a world where money loses meaning. A central strength of the book is its close attention to how ordinary routines warp when the currency becomes unreliable. Fergusson describes the practical chaos of wages that lag behind prices, forcing workers to spend immediately, sometimes racing from payday to market before tags are changed. Savings built over decades can become trivial, undermining prudence and the social promise that hard work and thrift lead to security. Families alter diets, postpone healthcare, and liquidate possessions, while those with access to goods, foreign currency, or hard assets fare better. Contracts and long-term planning break down because a price quoted today may be absurd tomorrow. Even simple transactions become logistical problems as notes multiply, change is scarce, and accounting systems fail to keep pace. The book also shows the psychological impact, anxiety, cynicism, and a sense that rules no longer apply. Social cohesion weakens when neighbors experience radically different outcomes based on timing and asset type. By portraying these lived consequences, the narrative makes clear that hyperinflation is not merely about high prices, but about the collapse of money as a shared measure of value. Thirdly, winners, losers, and the moral hazard of inflation. Fergusson details the stark redistribution that occurs when inflation accelerates beyond control. Fixed income groups and savers are devastated, while debtors can benefit as liabilities are effectively erased in depreciating currency. Businesses with real assets, inventory, or the ability to reprice quickly may survive or even thrive, especially if they can borrow and repay later with cheaper money. Speculators and intermediaries who understand currency dynamics can profit, not necessarily by creating value, but by exploiting speed and information. The book explores how these incentives deform behavior. Productive investment becomes less attractive than arbitrage, hoarding, or converting cash into goods immediately. Wage negotiations become constant conflict, and resentment grows as some appear to prosper in the midst of general misery. This redistribution is not only economic but moral, as people begin to view opportunism as rational self-defense. Fergusson suggests that when the state implicitly rewards debt and punishes saving, it undermines trust in fairness and legality. The topic underscores that hyperinflation changes society by changing incentives, and the social backlash can outlast the stabilization of the currency itself. Fourthly, politics, legitimacy, and the erosion of institutions. The narrative connects monetary collapse to a broader crisis of governance. As living standards fall and the public sees authorities failing to protect basic stability, political legitimacy weakens. Fergusson shows how competing factions interpret the inflation differently and use it to blame opponents, making coordinated policy harder. Administrative capacity also deteriorates, tax collection lags, budgets become meaningless, and civil servants struggle as salaries fail to keep up. Institutions that rely on long-term commitments, such as insurance, pensions, and education, are destabilized because promises made in nominal terms become empty. The book emphasizes how the public sphere itself becomes distorted. Rumors, scapegoating, and radical messaging find fertile ground when daily experience confirms that the normal order is broken. Hyperinflation thus acts as an accelerant for polarization, not necessarily because it creates new grievances, but because it magnifies existing tensions and discredits moderate solutions. Fergusson's account helps readers see why monetary stability is a political asset as much as an economic one, and why the effects of an inflationary collapse can shape the future long after the currency is reformed. Lastly, stabilization lessons and the fragility of confidence. Fergusson treats the end of hyperinflation as a hard-earned turning point that required more than technical monetary tweaks. Stabilization depends on restoring belief that the state will stop monetizing deficits and that the currency will be defended with credible policy. The book highlights how reform measures must align fiscal discipline, monetary control, and a public narrative that convinces citizens and markets that the regime has changed. It also conveys how late-stage inflation becomes self-reinforcing through expectations. Once people assume prices will rise, they spend faster, demand higher wages, and avoid holding cash, which increases velocity and pushes prices up regardless of the money supply's growth rate. Breaking that psychology is as important as changing institutional arrangements. Fergusson's broader lesson is that money is a social contract. Its value rests on shared acceptance, and when that acceptance cracks, technical fixes can fail unless credibility is rebuilt. The topic encourages readers to think in terms of warning signals, such as persistent deficits, political reluctance to tax or cut spending, and growing dependence on central bank finance. It also shows why stabilization, even when successful, cannot instantly repair the social damage inflicted by years of monetary chaos. In conclusion, this book is best suited for readers who want to understand inflation through human consequences as well as policy mechanics, students of economics and history, investors and business leaders who think about currency risk, and citizens concerned with public finance and government credibility. Fergusson's account can benefit a reader's life by sharpening judgment about how incentives change when money stops functioning as a stable store of value. It encourages practical awareness of balance sheet resilience, the importance of real versus nominal claims, and the way confidence can evaporate faster than institutions can respond. It also offers a clear reminder that everyday stability depends on unglamorous disciplines like sustainable budgets, trustworthy taxation, and central bank restraint. Compared with many books that treat Weimar inflation as a purely technical episode or a distant curiosity, When Money Dies stands out for its vivid social focus and its ability to connect policy choices to household experience. The narrative approach helps readers remember the warning signs and understand why hyperinflation is not simply high inflation, but a breakdown of the monetary order. That combination of historical specificity and enduring relevance makes it worth buying for anyone seeking a concrete, cautionary case study rather than abstract theory alone. If you would like to support Adam Fergusson, you can buy the book through the Amazon link I've provided in the podcast description. After reading the book, please let me know what you think and share your thoughts. See you around.